Hi there, welcome to Reddit Confessions. Today's story doesn't start with love, or a wedding, or even a name. It starts with a silence. A silence so sharp, it sliced right through the clink of a wine glass and the low hum of jazz in the background. She was staring at her phone. Again. I had made dinner. I had lit candles. I had even changed the bulb in the dim dining room light fixture because she once said it made her look washed out. I remembered that. I remember everything she says, even the things she doesn't. So I asked, carefully, nervously, like someone defusing a bomb, "Do you even want to be here anymore?" Her eyes didn't move. Her thumb scrolled lazily. Then she shrugged and said the words that would unravel everything. "Intimacy doesn't matter." She said it like she was commenting on the weather, like it wasn't the one thing I had been aching for. Not just the physical part. I mean the way she used to rest her head on my chest. The way she used to brush my arm in passing. The way she'd say, "You feel like home." But that night, she didn't look up. Not until I laughed under my breath and muttered, "Funny. Neither do your resort bills." Now that got her attention. She froze, still not angry, just calculating, like a poker player caught mid-bluff. I could see the wheels turning in her head. How much does he know? How long has he known? Can I spin this? Let me save you the suspense. I knew everything. I knew about the fake conferences, the weekend wellness trips, the $780 bottle of champagne billed to a two-person suite in Belize. I even knew the name of the guy, Trevor, a personal trainer with a man bun and inspirational quotes tattooed across his ribcage. And yet, she still looked me in the eye and said, "You're being dramatic." So I reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out the folder. Receipts, screenshots, a printed photo of her laughing in a hot tub while Trevor licked tequila salt off her shoulder. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood up, grabbed her bag and said, "You're boring, Daryl. You always have been." There it was, the final punch. Not loud, not cruel. Just true from her point of view. And here's the thing, she wasn't wrong. I am boring. I prefer quiet nights to parties. I fix broken clocks for a living. I read the terms and conditions. I floss. But you know what else I do? I remember anniversaries. I text back. I love consistently. And in a world full of flashy, filtered, fast-living Trevors, I thought maybe that still counted for something. I was wrong. But this story isn't about heartbreak. It's about what happened after. She left without another word. I sat at the table for a long time. The food had gone cold, candles burned low, and the folder of truth sat between my elbows like a monument to my own foolishness. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stared at the empty chair where she'd been sitting minutes before, trying to figure out what part of me she had walked away with. Because it wasn't just love. No, love had been gone for a while. It was something more brutal. She walked away with my certainty. The next morning, her silence continued. No texts, no calls, no let's talk, just digital nothingness. But I wasn't waiting. I was digging. I needed to know when it all began. Not the affair, but the shift. The moment I stopped being her person and started being her placeholder. I scrolled through her old social media posts, the ones I never paid attention to before because I trusted her. That was my mistake. I thought loyalty was returned just because it was given. I should have known better. There was a post from 7 months ago, from a resort I didn't even know she'd visited. The caption read, "Rediscovering myself in places I'd never imagined." I zoomed in on the background, not on her, but on the blurry reflection in her oversized sunglasses. A man's hand, a distinct sleeve tattoo. I compared it to another picture, one Trevor had posted on his public fitness page. Same ink, same watch. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost a wife. I'd lost 7 months of my life believing in something that didn't exist. I started printing things, dates, receipts, posts. I built a timeline on my wall like some cheap detective in a crime drama. And it all led back to one moment, a yoga retreat she'd gone on with her friend Amber. But Amber, bless her chaotic soul, had accidentally posted a group selfie tagging everyone except Moira. including Trevor. And it wasn't a yoga retreat. It was a beach party, complete with fire dancers and tequila tasting. So I called Amber. I didn't expect much. She and Moira weren't that close anymore, and I figured she'd shut me down. But when I asked if she remembered that weekend, she went quiet. "Daryl," she said slowly, "I thought you knew." Those words echoed in my head like a warning bell. Amber told me everything. How she had seen them together. How Moira told everyone I was fine with it. That we had some kind of open communication. She laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. I wasn't fine with it. I was just oblivious. And she had turned my trust into a weapon. Used it to paint herself as the misunderstood free spirit with a supportive, boring husband at home. That was my new identity. Boring Daryl. The footnote in her growth journey. That night Moira came back. Not out of guilt. Out of convenience. She walked in wearing travel-wrinkled linen and expensive sunglasses, acting like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't burned everything to the ground. She put her suitcase down and went straight for the fridge. "You got oat milk?" she asked casually. I didn't respond. I just stood there, arms crossed, folder in hand. She turned, slowly, and the moment she saw the stack of printed evidence, her lips curled into a faint, almost amused smirk. "How long have you known?" she asked. I didn't answer. Instead, I handed her a single sheet from the folder. A photo of her and Trevor. Their hands locked, her face pressed against his. She stared at it for a second, then dropped it on the counter. "Well," she said, brushing imaginary lint from her sleeve, "you're not as dumb as you look." And God help me, I still wanted her to say sorry. I still hoped for even a flicker of remorse. But there was none. Only a shrug. A quiet mutter of people change. And a request to not make this dramatic. I stood there in that silence again, the one that started it all, and realized something terrifying. She never expected consequences, because she never truly believed I'd do anything about it. But she was wrong, because what came next wasn't dramatic. It was devastating. She poured herself a glass of oat milk, like we were just two co-workers stuck in the same kitchen. She didn't ask what I'd seen, didn't deny what I'd found. She didn't even pretend to care. That's what gutted me the most. Not the cheating, not the betrayal, but the sheer casualness of it all. She had already written me out of her story. I should have yelled, thrown something, told her to get the hell out. But that's not who I am. I'm the guy who apologizes when someone steps on my foot. The guy who rewatches movies just to understand what he missed the first time. But this time I didn't fold. Instead, I picked up the envelope from the hallway table, the one I'd spent all night assembling while she was gone. I handed it to her without a word. She opened it slowly, like she already knew it wasn't a love letter. Inside were three things: a printed transfer receipt showing $9,300 removed from our joint account and moved into mine the day before, a notarized letter informing her that I was withdrawing my name from the lease, effective immediately, a copy of a hotel reservation. For me, 3 weeks, far from here. She blinked, then laughed. "You're going to a hotel? Alone? Oh my God. Daryl, are you trying to make me feel guilty or just pathetic?" I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. That silence she gave me, I gave it back. "I mean, come on," she scoffed, still thumbing through the papers. "You're acting like this is some grand betrayal. We weren't even sleeping together. You stopped trying years ago." That one stung. Not because it was true, but because it was the excuse she'd rehearsed. The defense she'd been saving. As if neglecting me emotionally and physically for months gave her moral clearance to rewrite our vows in tequila and tan lines. She moved toward the bedroom, dragging her suitcase behind her, calling out over her shoulder, "If you're trying to punish me, Daryl, I'm sorry to say it's not working. You're free. You always said you wanted quiet. So enjoy it." And then the door slammed. I stood there in that awful, echoing hush. And for a second I thought maybe she was right. Maybe I was pathetic. Until I looked down at the transfer receipt. at the lease release, at the hotel confirmation. No, I wasn't pathetic. I was prepared. I left that apartment 3 hours later. I didn't pack everything, just what I needed. A duffel bag of clothes. A shoebox of letters she once wrote me that I hadn't been able to throw away. Not yet. And the folder. The one with everything she pretended didn't exist. The hotel was bland, beige, and smelled like carpet cleaner. But it was mine. And for the first time in years, no one rolled their eyes when I spoke. No one minimized my feelings or disappeared behind a phone screen. I slept for 12 hours that night. No dreams. No nightmares. Just peace. Until the knock on my door. 3 sharp taps. Then a voice I hadn't heard in 10 years. Daryl? It's May. May. My ex from before Moira. The one I'd never really healed from. The one who had vanished into a different life across the country. I opened the door in disbelief. And that's when the real story began. She stood there in the dim hallway light like a ghost pulled out of my past. Same stormy green eyes. Same chipped front tooth. Same barely there freckle under her left ear. May. A name I hadn't spoken aloud in nearly a decade. A woman I had buried under layers of Moira's loudness and my own growing self-doubt. For a second, neither of us said anything. Her eyes flicked over my shoulder into the bland beige hotel room behind me. Then back to my face, as if trying to confirm whether this was really happening. Whether I was really here, wearing hotel slippers and a hoodie from a hardware store I no longer worked at. Hey, she finally said, her voice brittle and breathless, like it hadn't been used in days. I wasn't sure if you'd actually be here. I should have asked how she found me, or why, or even what the hell are you doing here. But all I could do was step aside and open the door a little wider. She walked in like she had every right in the world to be there. It didn't make sense. She had left me years ago, on a Thursday morning, with a note scribbled on the back of a Trader Joe's receipt. You deserve someone who doesn't flinch when you touch them. I'm sorry. That was all. No closure. No explanations. Just absence. Now here she was, standing in the room I had escaped to after my marriage collapsed, brushing the hair out of her face with trembling fingers and refusing to meet my eyes. I heard about Moira, she said quietly. My chest tightened. From who? She hesitated. Amber. Of course. Amber. The chaos courier who somehow always knew too much. The same woman who accidentally exposed Moira's affair was now apparently delivering blasts from my past like a karmic mail service. May sat down on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb the remote control or the untouched welcome mint still wrapped in crinkled plastic. I didn't come to say, I told you so, she said. I came because I saw that picture, the one from the resort, and I knew that look, the way you stared at her. I remembered when you used to look at me like that, and I remembered how much it hurt when you stopped. That made me sit down too, not next to her, not yet, just nearby. She took a breath. Daryl, I ran from you because I thought you were too much, too soft, too serious, too present. Scared me, and I thought Moira would be different, stronger, more like me. I turned to face her. You mean colder? She flinched. Yeah, she whispered. Exactly that. I didn't know what I was supposed to say. What do you say to the person who left you, just to watch you get destroyed by the next one? She looked down at her hands. I'm not here to fix anything. I'm not asking for you to forgive me. I guess I needed you to know that I see it now. What I threw away. The room fell silent again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to grab the stupid hotel mint and hurl it across the room because what was happening? This wasn't a movie. This wasn't closure. This was chaos in slow motion. Why now? I finally asked. She looked up, and for the first time her voice was steady. Because Amber said you finally left. That you finally stopped waiting for her to come back. And I thought, if you can stop waiting, maybe I can stop running. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of her, but because of the questions she left behind when she finally stood and said goodbye again. This time with a hug that lasted too long and meant too little. Because the truth was, I wasn't over her. And I wasn't over Moira either. But in very different ways. And that distinction, that was the key to everything that came next. The morning after May left, I woke up to find her hotel mint missing from the nightstand. A strange detail to fixate on, I know, but that tiny rectangle of chocolate had become some kind of metaphor in my mind. The moment I saw it was gone, it hit me. She had taken something with her again. Not love, not a promise, just a piece of presence, and left another absence in its place. I tried to distract myself. I walked around the block twice, stared at the complimentary breakfast without touching it, then opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in over a year. I checked my work email. Dusty inbox. A few auto-reminders from clients who'd long since stopped reaching out. One ad for business insurance. Nothing else. But then I saw a notification pop up in the corner of my screen. It wasn't an email. It was a shared folder. A shared folder from Moira. At first, I assumed it was some accidental click. Maybe she was clearing out her files and didn't realize something had been shared with me. But curiosity won. I clicked. The folder was titled D Drafts. Inside were subfolders, labeled months, January, February, March, all the way through to the current one. Each folder held screenshots, notes, videos, and every single file was about me. Some were recordings of our conversations, taken without my knowledge. Others were journal entries written by her, picking apart my every word, my mannerisms, my emotional constipation, as she called it. One document was titled, How to Nudge Daryl into a Separation Without Making Him the Victim. I felt sick. She hadn't just cheated. She had built an exit strategy, like a business plan. Each file was a piece of her campaign to gradually paint me as the emotionally unavailable, distant husband so that when she finally walked, the narrative would already be written. There was one video labeled simply, February_14_dinner. I almost didn't open it, but I did. It was from our last Valentine's Day together. I cooked a candlelit dinner at home. She'd looked bored. I tried to make a joke. She rolled her eyes and left mid-meal. I thought she'd gone to the bathroom. But in the video, recorded from her phone in the bedroom mirror, she whispered, just waiting until he finally snaps. Then I can call it irreconcilable and take the high road. Maybe I'll post about it. Sometimes love fades, and that's okay. God, the sympathy I'll get. She laughed. I slammed the laptop shut so hard it echoed off the cheap hotel walls. Couldn't breathe. This wasn't a betrayal anymore. It was a performance. A slow, calculated smear campaign disguised as marriage. I walked outside. I didn't care that I was in slippers or that I hadn't shaved. I just walked, barely seeing the pavement in front of me. My heart pounded in my ears. I didn't know where I was going until I looked up and realized I was standing in front of a lawyer's office. Not the one I'd called before. A new one. Clean. Glassy. Silent. I walked in. The receptionist looked up. Do you have an appointment? No, I said, my voice rough. But I think it's time I stopped being the victim in someone else's story. I left with a folder in my hands. This one didn't have photos or emotional landmines. It had instructions, plans, timelines, but this time they were mine. Later that night, I received a single text from Moira. If you saw the folder, just know it was never meant to hurt you. I was trying to protect myself. I didn't answer, but I knew something now that I hadn't known before. She never expected me to take control. She never expected me to wake up. But I was wide awake now, and I was done playing the fool. 2 days after I visited the attorney, the air changed. I mean that literally. The city was suddenly suffocating, thick, humid, heavy in that way that made your shirt stick to your back even if you hadn't moved all day. But something else shifted too, deeper than the heat. My breathing was slower, my hands steadier. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was the beginning of a new rhythm. A rhythm where I wasn't begging someone to see me. I was starting to see myself. I spent the evening putting everything together. Every receipt, every screenshot, every voice memo Moira had recorded without my knowledge. I compiled it all into a clean, chronological PDF. 47 pages long. No commentary, just facts. I wasn't going to shout or accuse or spiral into a text war like she wanted. I was going to do something that left her scrambling for air the same way she'd left me all those months. And then I did something reckless. I sent the file, not to Moira, to her family, her mother, her brother, her cousin, who I still followed on social media and who had just posted a story with Moira sipping champagne and doing fake air kisses like her world hadn't already crumbled behind the curtain. The email was simple. Hi all. I'm sure you've heard versions of our separation. I thought you deserved to see the full picture. No explanations from me. Just her words, her plans, her actions. Daryl. Then I shut my laptop and went for a walk. Not a rage walk like I used to take in the early days when I was trying to pace the pain away. This one was different, steady, intentional. I walked past the flower shop where I used to buy her tulips every third Saturday. Past the little cafe where she once said, "I could never be bored with you." Past the bookstore where she picked up a self-help memoir and never read a word of it. Every corner of this city had pieces of her. But she didn't own the map anymore. By the time I got back to the hotel, I had 14 missed calls and 9 voicemails, all from her. I didn't listen to a single one. Instead, I sat down, stared at the cheap painting above the hotel bed, and waited. She arrived at 10:41 p.m. I know the time because the hotel camera footage would later show her storming through the lobby in black heels, sunglasses, at night, and a fury she had probably rehearsed in her Uber ride. She pounded on my door. I opened it slowly, calmly. She looked furious, unhinged, and slightly confused, as if she couldn't understand why her usual tactics weren't working. "What the hell did you do, Daryl?" she hissed. "I didn't move. I let your words speak for themselves. You embarrassed me in front of my family." "No, Moira. You embarrassed yourself. I just gave them the script." She pushed past me into the room. I let her see the quiet. Let her feel how small her chaos sounded here. "You think this makes you the better person?" she snapped. "You think acting like some wounded saint is gonna fix everything?" I didn't say anything. She paced. Then she cracked. Her voice shook. "You were never exciting, Daryl. You were predictable, comfortable, and I needed more. I needed a fire." I finally looked at her then. Really looked. And I saw it. She wasn't angry because I ruined her life. She was angry because I refused to be destroyed by her. "I gave you years," I said. "I gave you silence when you needed it, stability when you couldn't find it in yourself. And you took that me and turned it into a narrative where you're the one who outgrew me. But the truth is, Moira, you never even tried to grow." She stared at me like I'd just spoken in a language she didn't know. Like she wanted to scream, but didn't know which part to attack first. Then she whispered, "They'll forget. You know that, right? People move on. You'll still be boring, Daryl." I stepped forward, close enough for her to see that I wasn't scared anymore. "Maybe, but at least I'm not fake." She turned to leave, but before she did, she paused at the door, looked over her shoulder and said, "You'll regret this. One day you'll wish I was still in your corner." And I smiled, not smugly, but like someone who had just seen the sun after a long, bitter storm. "Moira," I said softly, "you were never in my corner. You were the one drawing circles around it and calling them escape routes." She left, for good this time, but the chaos, that was just beginning, because the file I sent had gone farther than I ever expected. And someone else had been watching from the sidelines all along. 2 days passed. No more knocking on hotel doors. No desperate voicemails. No petty emails disguised as apologies. Moira had gone dark, eerily so. But I wasn't waiting for her anymore. I was waiting for myself to catch up to the man I was starting to become. The version of me that didn't flinch every time someone raised their voice. The one who didn't settle for being a background character in his own story. But just as the silence began to settle into something close to peace, my phone buzzed. It wasn't Moira. It was him. Trevor. Yes, that Trevor. Man bun, abs, tequila shots in Bali Trevor. The soulful energy coach with an Instagram full of shirtless hiking selfies and recycled quotes about personal freedom. His message was only 5 words long. "Can we meet? Just once. My stomach turned. Every rational part of me wanted to ignore it. I mean, what could he possibly say that I didn't already know? That I hadn't already dissected in painful detail on sleepless nights? But curiosity has a cruel way of dressing itself up as closure. I replied, "Where?" "We met at a downtown coffee shop. The kind of place with exposed brick and overpriced lattes made with ingredients you need a dictionary to understand." He showed up exactly on time, wearing aviators indoors and a necklace with some sort of carved wooden rune. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to leave. But then he took off his sunglasses, and for the first time, I saw something I didn't expect. Guilt. Real, shaking, eye contact holding guilt. "I didn't come to apologize," he started, voice low. "Because honestly, I know it wouldn't matter, and you'd be right not to care." I said nothing. Let him feel the weight of the silence I had lived under for months. "But I thought you deserved the full truth," he continued. "Moira lied to me, too." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "She told me you were done. That you'd been sleeping in the guest room for a year. That you were emotionally abusive, manipulative, and cold. She said you guilt-tripped her every time she tried to leave. That she stayed out of pity, not love." I stared at him. "She showed me edited screenshots," he said quietly, "of your texts. Conversations I now know were doctored. I didn't realize until I started noticing the inconsistencies. The times she said she was with you, but then posted pictures at parties with her friends. Things didn't add up. And after your file got out, I started asking questions. She didn't like that." "She never does," I muttered. He leaned forward. "She told me you'd crumble. That you were too soft to fight back. And when you didn't collapse, when you exposed her, she snapped. She's been spiraling ever since." I could almost see the cracks in his polished mask now. The way his fingers trembled slightly on the coffee cup. The way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes anymore. "And you?" I asked. "Where do you fit in this now?" He hesitated. "I left her 3 days ago. After I saw what she did to you, I couldn't be part of it anymore. And I found something else." He pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. It was a video, one I hadn't seen before. It was Moira, drunk, ranting into the front camera of her phone at some party, surrounded by laughing voices and blurry lights. "You know what the best part is?" she slurred. "He still thinks he mattered. Daryl. Sweet, boring, spineless Daryl. I could do anything and he'd still make me dinner. I'm teaching Trevor how to manipulate. He's learning from the best." The video cut off. I pushed the phone back across the table. Trevor nodded, slowly pocketing it. "I thought you should see that. You deserve to know it wasn't just infidelity. It was a game." I felt my hands curl into fists beneath the table. Not from rage, but from clarity. Moira hadn't just betrayed me emotionally, physically, psychologically. She had weaponized my kindness and turned it into a sport. She wasn't just trying to escape our marriage. She was trying to destroy me, for fun. I stood up. "Thanks for showing me. But this changes nothing." Trevor looked surprised. "It doesn't." "No," I said calmly. "Because I already decided something before I walked in here." "What's that?" I stared him dead in the eye. "I'm done being anyone's lesson." And I walked out. I didn't look back, because I knew where I was heading next. Not to fight her, but to finish this, publicly. I didn't burn her clothes. I didn't post the video of her drunken monologue. I didn't write a bitter expose on social media, though every nerve in my body wanted some form of retaliation. Instead, I did the most unexpected thing I've done in years. I forgave her, not to her face, not in a long email or a dramatic phone call. I forgave her in my mind, in the quiet, in the peace she tried so hard to rob me of. Because that's the part she never understood. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's not a reward. It's a release. And I was tired of dragging her ghost behind me everywhere I went. 2 weeks later, I closed the divorce paperwork with a calm I never thought I'd have. I moved into a small studio near the edge of the city. Nothing fancy. Bare walls, chipped tile, a creaky bed frame. But it was mine. Every drawer, every shelf, Every morning I woke up and didn't wonder if I'd be lied to again. I went back to work. Clients trickled in. One day I spent 3 hours fixing a 1980s tape deck for a retired librarian who cried when it played music again. She brought me homemade cookies as thanks. I didn't feel invisible anymore. I felt needed. Seen. I started going to the community center gym. Yes, me, Daryl, the cardigan guy. I'm still awkward on the machines, still wear socks too high, still avoid the protein smoothie bar like it's radioactive. But the rhythm of movement, the discipline of it, it's mine now. I even reconnected with my sister after years of awkward distance. We laughed over old family photo albums, pointed at our younger, wide-eyed versions, and I finally told her everything. She cried, then called Moira something so colorful I can't repeat it here. But the biggest shift came quietly. One afternoon, I opened my mailbox and found a small, cream-colored envelope with no return address. Inside was a note. You were never boring. You were real. Thank you for being the one I should have stayed for. There was no apology, just truth. And it didn't break me. It healed something. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But for the first time, I didn't need her words to define mine. I had rewritten my story in my own voice. And now I'm here, telling all of this to you. Because if even one of you out there feels like you're too soft to start over, let me remind you, soft things survive storms too. Hey, if you've stuck around till now, thank you. I know this wasn't just a story of betrayal, it was about rebuilding from the quiet up. If you've ever been through something like this, or if one small moment from this story reminded you of your own, I'd love to hear about it. Tell us in the comments. What moment in your life made you finally choose yourself? This is Daryl, signing off from a place of peace. And as always, thanks for watching Reddit Confessions.